to Anyone Can Be Called. This week's episode is Anyone Can Be Called a Feminist, focusing on gender inequality and issues women have faced over the years. I'm Libby, back with Bailey, Gracie, and Riley. This week, we went into our local community to see the gender differences in Midland, Michigan. We reached out to the AAUW. Their interview will be featured later in the show. We will also discuss the feminist movements and the modern issues.
To start off our discussion, you should understand some of the history of gender rights. The two main topics we will be going over are Seneca Falls and women's right to vote. The Seneca Falls Convention was a two-day convention held in Seneca Falls, New York, from July 19th to 20th, 1848. Led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, they established the fact that women are human too, and they are being deprived of the basic human right to vote. Even abolitionist Frederick Douglass spoke at the convention, believing in the case. This started a suffrage movement in America. 3 years later, Stanton and Mott met Susan B. Anthony, who was charged for illegally voting in a presidential election. This was the first large feminist movement to date, demanding federal involvement in the matter. 1910 to 1920 was a very key time for the women's right to vote. In between the years 1910 and 1918, states and territories were passing laws that allowed women to vote. States and territories like Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New York, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, and Washington all finally gave women the right to vote on a state/territorial level. In 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified in Tennessee. Being the 36th state to ratify the amendment, this gave women the right to vote.
For our second topic, we would like to give an overview on the history of the second feminist movement. During this time, equal pay was a popular topic. Jobs did not have to be identical, but they had to be equal. As workplace discrimination became a hot topic across the nation, the National Organization for Women, or the NOW, was created in order to aid women in the fight. Women's marches were also popular, often combining the topics of equal work, equal pay, and the fight in Vietnam. President Kennedy even hired women for high-ranking positions in his administration. The 60s could be described as a decade of reform in America, and this includes women's rights. Many laws were passed during the time, all pertaining to discrimination in education, sports, and financial credit. Laws were also passed for the rights of pregnant women, legalization of abortion, and birth control. 1970 was the year of lawmaking, outlawing gender discrimination in education, college sports, obtaining financial credit, and employment discrimination against women. This also included the legalization of abortion, birth control, and the establishment of irreconcilable differences as grounds for divorce and unequal property division during divorce. In this movement, we were able to see large advancements in women taking a place in different work fields.
Our third topic is hugely debated, modern feminism. Dun dun dun. The biggest topic within modern feminism is rape laws and abortion laws. Without getting too political, our current president is clearly not a feminist. The 2016 election brought out a lot of new equality issues and women and men wanting change. The big ones include rape laws and abortion. These two are highly debated, but the fact is, even with laws against rape, it is still obvious it happens. A lot. 1 in every 5 women will at some point in their life. That is drastically different from a man's chances, 1 in every 71. The majority of rape is walk 3, with only 6 out of 1,000 getting convicted. However, 2 out of 3 criminal assaults go unreported. This could be because criminals threatened to hurt the victim or their family if they were reported, or believed that the police could not help. With these statistics, it is clear that the only way to get rid of the gender divide is to get rid of rape altogether. This leads into our next topic, an interview with the AAUW, an organization to help empower women.
I was able to meet with someone from the AAUW. Miss Judith and Miss June kindly came to our school and were able to meet with us. We discussed the AAUW, the wage gap, laws to prevent gender discrimination, and competition in the workplace. Can you tell us about your organization and sort of what it does?
Everything for women.
Right.
Empowering women is their motto.
Through education, advocacy, philanthropy,
Civil rights, Title IX.
yeah, all those.
What specifically could we see in the community or in Michigan that I can be oh, I saw that from your organization?
Oh my goodness. We have in Michigan a coalition of organizations to observe Equal Pay Day, which is in April. And so there are many, our organization, Zonta, League of Women Voters, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, many organizations have formed this coalition. And so we have activities, and that's in April, when Equal Pay Day is in April. That's how long it takes a woman to catch up to a man's salary from the previous year in general.
We then started talking about equal pay and the differences and the different discriminations faced and what they have done in Midland.
Women in the United States make 20% less.
They're the ones who calculate Equal Pay Day. And
Right.
so they have all the data.
We want to make it not just a one-day observance. We want a year-round call and just awakening to women about this, and women vote for legislators who are going to help them.
And then we've been doing the seminars on training women to how to ask for a raise.
Right, good
And how to
point.
negotiate for a salary when they're going for their first job.
That's very good. Oh,
Told me that they were asked to train people who were going to be doing jobs above their level as they were being
rather than being
cashiered out.
promoted. They were supposed to train people, so that's, yeah. It's really, if you have children, then a father who has children gets a 6% bump in his pay. A woman loses 4% per child. Justify not paying women by saying, well, she's going to take time off, and she's just not going to work that long. She's going to be out having to run around taking the child to the doctor. They try to justify that. But a man's, they used to use the head of household, and they still do. Well, of course you have to pay men. But however, what is it? A third of all households are headed by women in the United
women,
States.
yes. Mhm.
I believe it is. So that's ridiculous. They don't give those women, because they're head of household, they don't give them higher pay.
At this point, I wanted to look more into the pay gap, and so I asked to interview Andrea Dominowski, who works as a North American financial director for Dow DuPont. When asked about the wage gap, she states that there is an opportunity for improvement in the space, and Dow is driving towards a more inclusive and diverse environment. Dow has hired a chief inclusion officer for the first time in history. Ms. Dominowski shared with me that according to the 2017 Global Gender Gap Report shared in the World economic form. It will take 217 years to achieve gender parity at the current rate. Going back to the interview with the AAUW, we then talked about the expectations of girls versus boys at even a young age.
There are statistics showing that young men who babysit aren't asked to do the dishes or asked to pick up. And if the family returns late, those young men are paid extra, whereas young girls are asked to do this. It's automatically assumed that the girls will clean up the house or pick up after the children or do the dishes or feed them, or the young men feed too, but not the sort of the household tasks, and that many of them are not paid for any overtime when the family doesn't come home.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Anyone Can Be Called a Feminist. We'll be taking a short break since Bailey is going to Florida for the week. If you want to see Bailey on her break, make sure to follow her on Instagram at @TheRealBaileySmith and her Snapchat @TheRealBaileySmith. Riley will be studying hard for her exams, so she will not be in the next episode. We'll be back with a special episode in 12 days with Gracie and me. Then, the next Saturday, we will be back to our normal schedule with Anyone Can Be Called a Sister. Be sure to watch out for those new episodes, and if you want to check out more, follow us on Instagram at Anyone Can Be Called a. See you in 12 days.